Look closely. The camerawoman, standing at Charlie's left around the 10 o'clock angle. Her rig extends forward, a metal rod that, in this frozen frame, could be mistaken for the barrel of a gun. And in that split second before the crack echoed through the auditorium, that rod was aimed directly at Charlie Kirk's neck. But here's where the contradictions begin. Investigators insist the fatal bullet came from a rooftop hundreds of feet away. Yet in his confession, Tyler Robinson didn't just admit to pulling a trigger. He said something far more disturbing. That someone sent him. Who? That question has been buried in sealed filings, whispered in corridors, redacted from public record. Was Tyler truly acting alone? Or was he a pawn in a much larger, darker game? If you've ever believed in digging deeper than the headlines, stay with us. If you've ever questioned why certain details vanish from public view, listen closely. If you've ever felt that pull, that sense something isn't right, don't just watch, join us. Subscribe now, add your voice in the comments, and share this story with one word: truth. Because tonight, we're following Tyler's own words that could turn this case upside down. September 10th, 2025. Utah Valley University. Just after 12:20 p.m., Charlie Kirk stepped onto the stage for what would become his final speech. Thousands had gathered, shoulder to shoulder, pressed into the aisles. Families, students, children with flags raised high, phones lifted to the air, eager to capture history in real time. Kirk spoke of faith. He spoke of freedom. He spoke of the future. Calm, steady, focused. And then chaos. A single crack tore through the auditorium. Screams erupted. People dove beneath chairs. Parents threw themselves over their children. Security swarmed the stage. And through it all, the cameras kept rolling. They captured not only the collapse of a man, but every shadow, every movement, every face in those critical seconds. And it's in those very frames, in that storm of noise and panic, that the contradictions first began to surface. Within minutes, roads were sealed. Helicopters thundered overhead. That night, a manhunt swept across Utah Valley. By dawn, the headline was everywhere. They had their suspect. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson of Washington, Utah. A rooftop shooter, investigators said. A bolt-action rifle recovered with his DNA on the trigger. Surveillance footage placing him near the building. And beneath his keyboard at home, a handwritten note prosecutors would later call a confession. The charges were immediate and severe. Aggravated murder, obstruction of justice, discharging a firearm in the presence of children. The state made its intentions clear. They would pursue the death penalty. It sounded airtight. It sounded final. But then came Tyler's words, not just admitting guilt, but whispering of something darker. In his own confession, he said he had been sent. And as the footage from inside the hall began to circulate, those words took on a weight prosecutors never expected. Because the closer you looked, the more the official story began to crack. Prosecutors painted a clean picture. Tyler Robinson, angered by Charlie Kirk's politics, positioned himself on a rooftop and fired with precision. One bullet, they claimed, struck Kirk in the neck and sent him crashing to the stage floor. But the medical reality told a stranger story. According to surgical staff, the bullet never exited the body. It was lodged deep inside soft tissue, highly unusual for a high-powered rifle fired from long range. Ballistics experts noted another problem. A rooftop shot should have created a downward trajectory and almost certainly an exit wound. What investigators described didn't match what doctors pulled from Kirk's body.
And then there's the possibility few dare to voice, that the fatal shot never came from the rooftop at all, but from within the crowd itself. Tyler's confession casts a shadow over every theory. He admitted to firing a weapon, yet insisted he was sent. If that's true, then who gave the order? Who was he protecting? And more disturbingly, was the camerawoman simply a witness with a camera, or a piece of the puzzle prosecutors don't want us to see? Amid all the speculation, one truth cannot be debated. A family lost a husband, a father, a son. The Kirk family sits in court, their eyes fixed on the man accused of pulling the trigger, and on a system they must somehow trust to deliver justice. Across the nation, candles burn in his honor. Crowds gather in silence, their prayers rising in the night air. Yet outside courthouses, the noise is deafening. Some demand swift punishment. Others plead that a rush to judgment could destroy an innocent man's life. But for the family, this isn't politics. It isn't theory. It's grief. And grief is relentless. It demands answers. Answers the official narrative still struggles to provide. And echoing beneath every vigil, every protest, every tear is Tyler Robinson's confession, not of why he pulled the trigger, but of who sent him. Until that question is answered, closure remains impossible. In the courtroom, prosecutors press their case. DNA on the rifle. Surveillance placing Tyler near the rooftop. Online messages painting a picture of motive and intent. To them, the story is simple: one man, one shot, one crime. But the defense takes a different path. They pick apart the forensics, a bullet lodged instead of exiting, a trajectory that doesn't match. They point to the sound of the shot, witnesses describing it as frighteningly close. And they demand answers for what's missing: the unidentified camerawoman, the silence around her equipment, the inconsistencies in the record. Hovering above it all is the line Tyler himself delivered: "I was sent." If the fatal shot came from behind at close range, then who fired it? And if Tyler was truly sent, then by whom? The trial may seek a verdict. But what hangs over this case is not just guilt or innocence. It is the possibility that the story told from the start has never been the whole truth. Here's what we know. A man is dead. A nation is divided. And a suspect now faces the death penalty. But the evidence leaves us staring at contradictions. A bullet that lodged instead of passing through. A sound that seemed too close to come from the rooftop. And a camerawoman whose equipment pointed at the very place Charlie Kirk was struck. And then there are Tyler's words, his confession that he had been sent. Sent by who? For what purpose? That question remains unanswered. So the haunting question lingers. If the official story doesn't match the evidence, then who really pulled the trigger?
This case is far from over. We will follow every hearing, every revelation, and every contradiction until the truth emerges. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. And if you believe the truth should never be hidden in plain sight, drop just one word in the comments: truth. Share this story with someone who needs to see it. Because the closer we look, the more questions we uncover.